Morning, dear students. I'm really happy once again to be with you with a new lesson. In the sense, the lesson that is related to Tansei. It's not a new lesson. In fact, we started this lesson in the last video, and today we will conclude the lesson. As all of us know, Tansei was one of the greatest musicians that ever lived on the face of this earth. People considered him to be a musician who had been born after 1,000 years. And Tansei proved that. How he proved to be one of the most famous musicians on the face of the earth? That's the topic of today's discussion. Right. You see, Akbar invited Tansei to be a part of the 9 gems who decorated his court. 9 gems. In Hindi we call it as Navratna. The best brains, 9 brains of the country had gathered there in the court of Akbar, and Tansei was included in that. Tansei was included in that because he was a genius as far as music was concerned. So we call him as the music maestro, right? Maestro means a master. So Tansei, the musical genius, had the rare opportunity of being included in the 9 gems that decorated honor the court of Akbar. Now, as he began singing, performing day after day, his fame started spreading far and wide. People came to know that a great musician lives in the court of Akbar, and his singing makes people ecstatic, or he takes people to a state where they can be united with nature and even God. So his performance was mesmerizing. His performance was driving people mad. They were so absorbed. When Tansei began to sing, people were absorbed in his music. They thought nothing but only music, music and music that was performed by Tansei. So Tansei became the talk of the town and the talk of the country as well. Tansei's name was the one that existed in the mouths of everyone. Now, this obviously created a feeling of jealousy. It's quite natural when somebody excels in a particular profession, then there might be some people who are jealous after that person. So they might be trying to defame him, insult him, put him into trouble. This is a very common thing. So Tansei was no exception to this, and there were many rivals, detractors. We call them as detractors. They were trying to kind of pull the legs of Tansei, humiliate him, insult him, okay, and tarnish his image. Tarnish. This is a good word for you to know. Tarnish. What do you mean by tarnish? Spoil. They tried to spoil the name of Tansei. So what happened? They misguided Akbar. How did they misguide Akbar? They told Akbar to call Tansei to the court and sing a very, very difficult raga. I repeat, the detractors or the people who did not like Tansei asked Akbar to invite Tansei to the court and then sing a very difficult raga. You know, Indian classical music has many ragas, hundreds of them. And each raga is sung at a particular time of the day. There are ragas which are sung at a particular season of the year. There are ragas which are sung during the spring season. There are ragas which are meant for the rainy season. There are ragas which are meant for dry seasons. And again there are ragas which are sung at different parts of the day. There are morning ragas. There are afternoon ragas. There are late afternoon ragas. There are evening ragas. There are ragas which are sung at night. And there are also ragas which are sung at late night or midnight. So our system of music, Indian system of music, is very systematic. It is a very organized kind of stuff, you know. So that is why Indian music, especially the classical music, has become a passion for many Westerners. Many Westerners come to India to learn music, to master the musical instruments like the veena, the sarod, the santur. Okay? So Tansei was a shining example in the court of Akbar to prove that music can connect man to God. Music is spiritual. Music can mesmerize you. So, what happened? These people who were jealous of Tansen, they told Akbar, Your Majesty, ask Tansen to sing Deepak. If he can sing the rag Deepak, we can understand that he is one of the greatest musicians. So Akbar called Tansen and he put forward the instruction to him. He said, you see, people want you to listen. People want you to sing Rag Deepak. They want to listen to Rag Deepak sung by you. So you do that. But Tansen was worried. He was anxious. He was anxious because he knew Rag Deepak was not a very easy rag to be sung. It is a dangerous raga. You know why it is dangerous? When the raga is sung by a person, the person's body gets heated up. And when the body gets heated up, the surroundings get heated up as well. And if that happens, the body of the singer who is singing the rag would burn down to ashes finally. That is why people usually don't try to take up this rag and sing it. They don't easily agree to sing Rag Deepak. Now, this was a challenge to Tansen. And his rivals, his enemies, were eagerly waiting to see how he is going to take up this challenge. Now, Tansen went home and he was thinking of the situation over and over again. Then finally an idea struck him. He thought that he would ask Rupa to sing Rag Malhar. Who was Rupa? She was another disciple of Haridas and also a colleague of Tansen, because they were all taking instructions, musical instructions, lessons, music lessons from this great man Haridas. So Rupa was a colleague of Tansen, and Tansen approached her and put forward the request. Rupa, I have been asked to sing Rag Deepak, which is a very difficult and a dangerous one. In case, if I start singing, my whole body would burn and turn down to ashes. Now, how to solve this? I have an idea. The idea is that you take up Rag Deepak and perform it at Malhar. I would sing Rag Deepak, and in case if my body gets heated up, then you will start Rag Malhar. And everybody is aware, everyone knows what Rag Malhar is. The musicians, those who are into the music field. Malhar is a rag which is sung during the rainy season. There are different kinds of Malhar. Megh Malhar, just Malhar. Okay, so this is a rag meant for the rainy season, inviting the clouds, praising the clouds, invoking the rain god. So Malhar is a kind of rag associated with the rainy season. So now Tansen has put forward the request, and the request is that Rupa should sing Rag Malhar while he sings the Rag Deepak. And Rupa said, I cannot do this without the permission of my master. I have to go to my guru and take permission. And if he says, okay, I will do it. Otherwise, I'm sorry, Tansen, I cannot. So he said, okay, come, let's go and obtain permission. Let's discuss the problem with our guru, that is Swami Haridas. So they went, and finally Swami Haridas approved. He agreed to the request. He said, okay, Rupa, you go ahead with Rag Malhar. Now, the appointed day came. All the ministers, the courtiers and the public were gathered at the palace of King Akbar, Badshah Akbar. They were all eager to listen to Tansen singing the Rag Deepak. The whole palace was packed with people. It was a jam-packed audience. Jam-packed audience. This is a good word for you to know. What do you mean by jam-packed? The hall was full of people, crowded. Okay. Everybody's eyes and ears are on Tansen, fixed on Tansen, especially the enemies of Tansen. Now, Tansen was ready. As soon as Akbar walked into the court and took the seat on the throne, Tansen started singing the alap. What is alap? The beginning of any raga is known as alap. Alap is the beginning of a composition. So Tansen began to sing the alap of Rag Deepak. As he started singing, he began to feel the warmth around him. His body was not on fire, but he began to feel the heat around him. And then slowly, as he improved his performance, the heat increased. Not only that, the fountains in the palace began to flow with hot water. See how surprising is it? The fountains began boiling. Water was boiling in the fountains. Birds began to fly away from that area because they couldn't put up with the heat. They couldn't bear the heat of the atmosphere. All the flowers which were fresh, which were sweet to look at, they began to wither and droop, and then finally they became dry and fell to the ground. So the entire atmosphere was affected by the heat that was produced by singing the Rag Deepak. That was the effect of Rag Deepak. And as Tansen began to sing, as he began to improve the performance, the heat got increased. His body was beginning to feel the heat more vigorously. But he could not stop the raga because he was at the highest pitch of his performance, highest level of his performance. So you cannot just stop a raga when you are performing. And as his pitch rose higher and higher, as he began to perform the raga, the heat spread to his whole body. And there is another important thing that you must note. Before Tansen's beginning of the singing, before he began to sing Rag Deepak, the servants of the palace had kept many lamps on the walls. But there was the lamps were not burning. Unlit lamps. So hundreds of lamps were placed on the walls of the palace. There was oil in the lamps, but the lamps were not lighted. Now, as Tansen began to sing the Rag Deepak, the lamps automatically got lighted. Nobody lighted the lamp, mind you. All of a sudden, 100 lamps began to be lighted. And Tansen was singing and singing and singing. He was reaching the best level of his performance. Then came the sad ending. It's not a sad ending. It's a twist, you know. Tansen's body began to burn. Flames started coming out from his body and Rupa could not bear it. The moment Rupa saw flames coming out of Tansen's body, she began to sing Rag Malhar. And as I told you, Rag Malhar is associated with rains. So the moment she started singing Rag Malhar, dark clouds began to gather on the sky. Clouds became dark, rain-bearing clouds, and soft winds blew. And then after a few seconds, there was a heavy shower, a downpouring rain, a driving rain, a thick rain. You see the expressions that I use for rain? Driving rain. What do you mean by driving rain? Heavy rain. Thick rain. It means the same. Downpouring. There was a downpour. What do you mean by this word? Downpour. There is a heavy rain. So it began to rain hard. You can also say it is raining hard. You can also say it was raining cats and dogs. See the kind of expressions. One incident but expressed in many ways. Cats and dogs. So there was a downpour. And the moment there was a downpour, Tansen began to run out of the palace so that his body could be drenched with the rainwater. What do you mean by drenched? Become wet, fully wet. He was drenched in the rain. What do you mean by that? His body became completely wet by the rainwater. Body became completely wet. So Tansen was drenched in the rainwater and the flames died out. What is the meaning of died out? Flames died out. It means the flames were off. They were no longer burning. The flames died out and Tansen once again made an entry into the court of Akbar the Great, the greatest of the great Mughals. And Akbar was flabbergasted. It's a very difficult word, but a very good word. Flabbergasted. What do you mean? Flabbergasted? Completely shocked. Shocked with surprise. He couldn't just believe what was happening. Two ragas. One is Deepak, that creates fire, and the other Malhar, that makes the fire die out. That is Indian music, you see. Indian music can light lamps. Indian music can bring down rain and give energy to the atmosphere, including the plants, vegetables, plants. This is something you don't find in the Western music. That is why somebody has said, the greatest musician of our times has said, Indian music can make your soul dance, whereas the Western music can make only your body dance. That exactly is the difference. So, when Tansen entered the court, Akbar was simply flabbergasted. He was excited and he showered Tansen with many, many gifts. And Tansen was known as the master of music or the music maestro. And musicians, those who sing classical music today, they always try to take Tansen as their example. Tansen is their guru, and with the blessings of Tansen, they start practicing the ragas. So, Tansen's compositions, hundreds of compositions, he composed his own ragas. And there is a raga which is in the name of Tansen. The very raga is known as Tansen. So, people, the musicians, great musicians, they sing Tansen's compositions. They are very, very deep in the sense they can touch your soul, but very difficult to perform unless you have a very good practice, a solid practice. You cannot just sing any of Tansen's composition. So Tansen's fame spread far and wide. He came to be known as a synonym of music. If you remember in the first class I told you, Tansen's name is synonymous with music. Another name for music is Tansen. It's very true. So, Tansen may not be alive today. He is no more amidst us. He is no longer with us. But his music still lives and he speaks to us through his compositions and ragas. So, my dear students, I think I have made myself clear. Hope you understood what I discussed. Just take your textbook and start reading this lesson, because this lesson is included in the exam that we are going to take very soon. So go over the life of Tansen. It's a very interesting lesson. It's not very complicated, you know. No formulas, no facts, nothing to kind of break your head about. It's a very interesting lesson which describes the life and the performance of Tansen. Read that, and I will be giving you some questions today. Go over the questions and keep preparing for your exams. So with this we wind up. Until we meet again, it's goodbye from me. Stay safe and keep working hard.